Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronine Report. This is a special edition that had to be done based on recent circumstances. Anytime we have a pro show and Shawn Ray does some commentary on it, particularly when an athlete isn't particularly pleased with Shawn's commentary, there's usually a backlash on their social media. And anyway, I thought it would be a good idea to get Shawn on today to explain what his job is as a commentator, as a critic, and why he's really why he says the things he does, and where his motivation is, and how it's actually meant to help the athlete. Believe it or not, guys. So, Shawn, I'm gonna first of all say, what happened to your office? Where's all the damn? Wasn't that a Shawn Ray? It was a Shawn Ray shrine. What happened?
It was a shrine. It's undergoing some renovations, some painting and stuff. So I had to take everything down off the wall to get all the nooks and crannies painted. So I'm doing a little bit of remodeling. But you're absolutely right, Ron. I mean, I'm no stranger to the world of media. When I started bodybuilding, I was in college, and I just won the national championships and competed in my very first Mr. Olympia. And I was sitting in the classroom in Cal State Fullerton taking voice and diction, public speaking, different types of things for the media. And literally around that time, I started working with American Muscle and Lose a Wick. So I was on TV in the beginning of my bodybuilding career, and throughout the 90s, commentating on ESPN, doing exactly what I do on the internet for Steve Bleckman. So I had made a career out of color commentating. I was there calling the shots when Flex Wheeler won his USA championships, when he lost to Mike Matarazzo on ESPN back in '91, and he wanted to quit bodybuilding, and Chris Cormier a year later in '93 when he won the USAs, and Dexter Jackson in '95. My last Olympia in 2001, I was the color commentator for Fox Sports Net, which meant I had to break down the competition, had to analyze myself, and I had to then call, go to YouTube, type in, I don't know, Shawn Ray, Fox Sports Net 2001 Olympia. I was the color commentator in post-production. It's kind of weird. But, and then we've evolved into the world of the internet. So this isn't nothing new. I was doing this way back. I mean, I got almost 25, 30 years doing this, critiquing the sport, being an expert of the sport, and traveling the world. I told you I leave for Bolivia this Thursday to do a seminar. So speaking about bodybuilding, speaking about the athletes, some of whom were closer than others to me, most notoriously was Kevin Levrone a year ago. I mentioned to you I had a 25, 30-year relationship with Kevin. I was kind of like the yellow pages for him, the 401, whenever he needed to know information or he needed to contact someone. It's more that type of relationship. He called me up to stay in touch. And then when it got to a point of where he made his comeback and I gave my honest opinion of what I thought about his comeback, that 25-year, 30-year friendship came to an end because of my honesty. And I'm a fan of the sport just like you are. I heard your online interview with Kevin, which was, I mean, it took me back. Just to hear you talk about what it meant to you to watch him do all of that. Now, I was excited to see Kevin back on stage because just like yourself, I wanted to see those flashes of brilliance from days of old. But being as close to the sport that I am, sometimes I'm privy to information that the fans are not. So my opinions come from a different place. They come from a different perspective. And mind you, it also comes from a place of experience, which is why I'm in this position today. So I see, I know, and I've lived a lot of the things these bodybuilders go through. So then when I throw out my opinions of what I'm watching on stage, some of the bodybuilders that might have looked up to me, wanted to emulate my career, Richard Jones comes to mind, Shawn Rhoden comes to mind, and naturally Brandon Ray comes to mind most recently. These guys think I'm throwing them under the bus because I'm not coming at them as a fanboy. Listen, let's cut to the chase, okay? Brandon Ray made an Instagram post the other day about what I thought about what happened in the Vancouver Pro Show. Brandon showed up in 5th place. I was there a year ago when he fainted like Dallas McCarver did in Palm Springs and was unable to finish the race out there on this big platform. So here he is in Vancouver. I think prior to the show, you and I and Steve talked about who the favorites were going into that show, even though Michael Lockett had won the contest in Chicago. Brandon Ray, on paper, should walk away with this competition relatively easy if he shows up in shape. Now, here's the problem, is that we've been saying that for I don't know how many years. I think since the kid turned pro. And there are a lot of people with that type of potential. Matt Mendenhall had that. Roy Littlemeyer had that. These were promises that just were never fulfilled. And as a fan, we want to see that. We want to witness these guys come to their peak on stage. Well, Brandon Ray, for whatever reason, has had the help of sponsorships. He's had the help of the magazines. He's had the support of everyone that loves bodybuilding, including myself. Brandon Ray's been here, so he knows me. And I've kind of mentored him. I gave him advice. We've actually worked together. I helped him secure a sponsorship deal. So he's not an enemy of Shawn Ray. If anything, he was a friend, and I was kind of a fan and very supportive. But listen, you only get so many bites at the apple. And if you're someone's friend, you tell them, you got to straighten up and fly straight. Here's Brandon in a contest. It's a pro show. Yeah. He's got all the tools to win. And the guy's in 5th place. I mean, that for me is almost inexcusable. So what's happening? He might have a job. He might have pressures. He might have sicknesses. He has all the things in front of him that I also had in front of me for 14 years. It was actually harder then than it probably is now because the genetic pool is weaker. Yeah. So I went out on my Shawn Ray Unleashed, and I called it like it is. Brandon, not only was he watery and smooth, but his posing was less than memorable. He took exception to the fact that I said, and here's my quote, he poses like a little man, like Franco Columbu and like Berto Fox. He's got so much muscle that his front biceps looks like this, instead of like this. Yeah. We heard Arnold Schwarzenegger saying in Pumping Iron to Franco, you need to open up and extend. I mean, where is the negativity in that? I'm talking about things that he should be able to take from that commentary and go to the gym, implement it, get on that stage, and make it come to fruition. If Brandon posed like a bigger bodybuilder, if he brought the detail that he's supposed to bring and that we've actually seen when he was younger, he would be a much more formidable force on that stage. Instead, he's placing in 5th place. If he's happy with being in 5th place, more power to you. Yeah. But as an expert, as a Hall of Fame bodybuilder, as someone that walked in the same shoes that he did, he should probably be paying attention to what I'm saying instead of how I'm saying it. Listen to why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because you just cost your chance at a spot in the Mr. Olympia because you're a much better bodybuilder than Michael Lockett. Michael Lockett should never beat you, and that's not a slap in Michael Lockett's face. Michael Lockett is not the genetic freak that Brandon Ray is. There's no reason why Brandon Ray shouldn't be competing in the Mr. Olympia, but guess what? He's in 5th place, and he's mad that Shawn Ray said, you need to work on your posing. You have to bring in your crispness. You have to dry out. Your back is really almost amateurish. And if he's happy with the way that he presents his package on stage, the judges let him know how happy they are. 5th place. I was never happy with 5th place. If he is, more power to him.
Well, I think this goes back to, our job. We're not just supposed to say everybody looks great. He looks great. He looks great. He looks great. I mean, that's not what a commentator does. That's not what a critic does because what's the point? But I've had a lot of people come at me everywhere from pros to local competitors when I've given them honest critiques because they don't like what I'm telling them. But the fact of the matter is, if someone's horrible, someone's got terrible potential, and there's nothing they can really do to improve, I don't really have much to say to them. But if someone has excellent potential and it's just a matter of condition is really the easiest fix, or it's one specific body part that they just need to bring up, if they would take that advice, act on it, and come back improve, they would do so much better. And I hate seeing people with that excellent potential just piss it away show after show after show when they should be moving up the ladder.
Let me tell you something. That's exactly what Brandon Ray is doing. So my level of frustration is at an all-time high, but I have no skin in the game. I lose nothing. If Brandon is 5th place or if he's 1st place, what do I have to gain or lose? Right. So my job here, and I've worked for Joe Weider, I've worked for Lou Zwick, alongside Robin Chang, with the people at ESPN, with the people at Fox Sports Net, and now I'm working for Steve Bleck and going on 8 years. I wouldn't be in this position if I was out there sugarcoating and blowing smoke up everybody's ass. Now, the 90s was the best time to blow smoke up people's butts because everybody was conditioned. It was about conditioning. Yeah. I mean, Dorian tried to make it about size, but even Nasser, for as big as he was in shape. These guys don't have an excuse. Why are you not in shape? Right. What they have is a platform to go and complain why they weren't in shape. So Jeff Long took a negative response to me telling you got to get cut, Jeff. You got to get cut. Go back to what you look like at the Nationals. Justin Compton packed on all this size. He didn't even win the Nationals overall. He was a heavyweight winner. and the other kid won the overall. I forget what the guy's name was that year.
Yeah.
But Justin Compton, I walked up to him afterwards. I said, "You should have won that overall. That guy should never beat you."
Yeah.
And Justin did exactly what I asked him not to do, which is just packed on as much size as he could, and he lost all of his cuts and his detail that made him a national champion. And Jeff Long did the exact same thing. These guys don't look as good as they did when they were amateurs, and they want me to give them respect. They want me to give them props. Here's where I'm different than any other writer out there, than any other analyst, is that I have no reason to tell you you look better than you do. Kevin Levrone, who was probably the closest bodybuilder to me, I had no reason to, at 52 years old, to look him in the eye and tell him, man, you can beat Dexter Jackson. You're going to beat Big Ramy. You can beat William Bowe. I couldn't even tell him he could beat Justin Compton, and Justin was in 10th place.
Yeah.
Now, if you can't hear that coming from somebody that you've known for a quarter century, who can you hear it from? You surround yourself with a bunch of fans, you're not going to get better. You may get the likes on your Facebook page. You might get the followers on your Instagram. But when the rubber hits the road and that scorecard comes down, it's going to be exactly how I see it, because this is what I do. I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
I don't have a reason to throw these guys under the bus. Listen, if Brandon Ray never talks to me again, Kevin Levrone never talks to me again, or Dallas McCarver never talks to me again, I don't lose anything. I said that Dallas McCarver was the future Mr. Olympia. And then he showed up in New Zealand, and he got beat by Brandon Ray, who couldn't get into the top 10 of the Olympia.
Yeah.
So
Curry.
What happened?
Different Brandon Curry.
Yeah, Brandon Curry. I'm sorry, Brandon Curry. So Brandon Curry then goes over to the Camel Crew, and Brandon Curry not only takes out Dallas McCarver, he knocked him out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't close, because actually Dallas McCarver in Australia was in 3rd place, according to Steve Weinberger, after prejudging when he passed out on stage. And I predicted that this was going to happen. I'm not a swami in this, but I am an expert. When I say I got a PhD in bodybuilding, who's going to deny that?
Right.
I may not have a paper, but I mean, I've been to every show. I've seen it all around the world. I've commentated at the Arnold Classic in Brazil and in all over the country and around the globe doing these shows. So I've seen it all up close. You don't have to like my delivery, but it'd be nice if you listen to what comes out of my mouth in terms of my opinion. We all have varying and different opinions. So who does Brandon Ray listen to going forward? The people on his Instagram right now that are saying, screw Shawn Ray, he's a bitter old man. You know what? Your posing looked great. He's on there justifying that his posing looked great. Look at his posing.
Yeah.
And then what I see in his posing is the potential of his posing, what it could be.
Right.
If he wants to pose like a little guy, like Franco Columbu, and he thinks that that looks great, then he's going to continue placing where he places. If he wants to come in the condition that he came in Vancouver, which, by the way, Kevin Jordan doesn't want me to start talking about him because he was a much better bodybuilder when he won the Nationals, and he still hasn't been able to tap into that condition. I don't know why they're not getting into the condition they should.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. For some of these guys that go in the gyms with their cell phones, and Brandon Ray is the king of an off-season physique. He's like the Dennis James of bodybuilding. When Dennis James was taking pictures 2 or 3 weeks for the Olympia,
yes.
There's nobody could touch Dennis James. He put on the little tank top. You're like, holy crap. Brandon Ray looks the same way, but then you get on stage and it just doesn't translate.
Yeah.
So I don't have an axe to grind with Brandon Curry. When I did that Unleashed, Shawn Ray Unleashed means uncensored. I'm not pulling any punches. I'm not sugarcoating. Dallas McCarver posing in front of Jim Mannion, looking the way that he did. If he thinks he's happy with that and that was okay, I guarantee you when his career's over, he'll look back at these things because they put him up online. It's on his social media. Dallas McCarver will go, you know what? He was right. I probably should have never, ever posed in front of Jim Mannion, knowing, and this is what he told me in Australia, that I threw up for like 3 days straight, that I traveled all the way there and I wasn't feeling good. Who wants to pose at that point in time, let alone have it documented and then put it out into the universe? And by the way, that whole thing went sideways because he told me that I should have called him after the fact to find out why he looked so bad.
Right.
And I thought, you know what, Dallas, you could have set that up by saying, hey, Jim, I've been throwing up for 3 days straight. I came in here from wherever, Kentucky. I feel like crap. I probably look like crap, but I'll show you what I look like. Maybe you can give me some good insight. He didn't set it up.
Well, you know what? I mean, our job is to judge the physiques that are on the stage, and it's not the backstory. Doesn't matter because the judges don't give a shit whether you have the flu, whether your dog just died, whether you missed a couple flights and didn't have your food, your water. These things, you know, shit happens, obviously, but all that matters to the judges and in the end is what your physique looks like on the stage while the contest is happening, and that's it. So our job is not to track down everyone that didn't look their best and say, you were really off. Can you tell me why?
Yeah. Nobody was here. Well, you know what? Your boy Kevin on the Ronine interview you did with him.
Yeah.
He gained some points for me because for like the 10th or 11th time, there was this tragedy in his family,
Yeah.
and he chose not to compete. Had he gone in that show in Vancouver and looked like crap, he wouldn't have that opportunity to go to the microphone and go, I look like crap because I was mentally screwed up. I had a death in the family. You don't get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, no one gives a shit.
Right.
No one cares what you had to go through to get on that stage because everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everyone has a journey. Now, mind you, throughout my entire career, I didn't have a wife. I didn't have kids. I pretty much did the journey by myself, so it was a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
And then you have other people that are married, that have children, that held down jobs like Ronnie Coleman. And you don't hear them talk about that struggle because it has nothing to do with the finished product. So I don't want to hear excuses from one bodybuilder, from any bodybuilder. Brandon Ray can go online and talk all the crap he wants to about what I thought about his performance in Vancouver. But he's not alone. He's not the first. He won't be the last. My message to all the bodybuilders out there, I am a diehard fan of bodybuilding since 17 years old. I knew Larry Scott. I knew Sergio Oliva. I know Frank Zane. I work for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've been under the umbrella of the Weider Enterprise, Ben and Joe Weider, and Lou Ferrigno, and Bob Kennedy, and now Steve Bleckman. I mean, I am in the fabric. I'm as much a fan as you are. Dave Lieberman, Bob Ciccarillo, Robin Chang. There's a few people that have just, it's in their DNA.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I don't gain any satisfaction of saying that Brandon Ray is a crappy bodybuilder, or that Jeff Long will never be the bodybuilder we want him to be, or that Justin Compton is doing things detrimental to his health, or that Dallas McCarver is growing too fast and working with the wrong people, or that Kevin Levrone is delusional at 52 years old to go in the Olympia. Now we have Flex Wheeler coming back. I love it just as much as the next guy. But when we get there, we have a fiduciary duty to be honest, to be transparent, and to keep it 100 so that these bodybuilders can learn. This is the ignorance of today's bodybuilder, is that they think that we in the media owe them something because they also had to sacrifice and diet and struggle to get there. The difference is I've done the same thing they're doing.
Right.
I've been where they're going. And I, more than anyone else, would love to have been on this thing saying, Brandon Ray finally nailed it. He's competing in the Olympia. This Brooklyn dude that we saw coming up from the Junior Nationals back in the day that was the next coming of the Berto Fox, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened, and at this rate, it won't happen. He was 5th place in Vancouver in a very weak lineup. Now, that's not a slap to any of those other guys. The lineup was weak.
Right.
Michael Lockett will struggle to make the top 10 of the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
That means he's not on the upper echelon, and that is no slap to his face. He got there not once, but twice he qualified, so he's doing the business.
Yeah.
Brandon Ray didn't even get a sniff at that type of opportunity.
Right.
That is nobody's fault. That's not my fault. It's not your fault. And any other reporter out there that tells Brandon Ray that he looked his absolute best and Brandon believes it, then Brandon's a fool. He's a foolish bodybuilder. And I 100% will take a picture from when he turned pro and put it up next to that picture in the Vancouver pro, and he would be very hard-pressed to tell me where he made improvements. Very hard-pressed. So why go after me? Here's where we're at. Social media, you can make a video like Dallas McCarver did. You can post something emotionally like Brandon Ray just did on Instagram, and you're not going to get any brownie points. You'll get your fans coming out there. Your family will come out there, and they can all come after me. But the proof is in the pudding when you start doing these comparisons. Take a picture from when you turn pro and put it next to where you're at in your career, and you tell me whether or not that can hold water and give you brownie points. You don't get brownie points for how you used to look.
Yeah.
Only how you look.
Well, you know what? I want to say something about social media because I've been watching this go on for the last few years now. Facebook and Instagram in particular, it gives a platform for a lot of people who wouldn't normally follow bodybuilding to sort of, they see a picture of someone like a Jeff Long or Brandon Ray, and they say, wow, you look amazing, and oh, you took 15th or 16th place. It's all politics. You got screwed. You look the best up there. And, you know, first of all, they weren't at the show. They weren't. Most of these people didn't even see anybody else in the contest.
Yeah.
And they're totally uninformed. Let's say ignorant, because that's the accurate term. They're ignorant. They have no really concept of the qualities that the judges are looking for in these things. And I know these athletes, especially the pros, should know better, but I honestly believe they let themselves be influenced by these people that come on there and tell them, you looked amazing, that's the best physique, you should be Mr. Olympia, even though you just took 15th at a, you know, at a second tier, third tier show. And I think it gets to them, and it makes them not as receptive to honest and constructive criticism as they should be.
Yeah, and we didn't have that when I was coming up. So you also have to consider my point of reference. You can call me angry. You can call me old.
Bitter.
You can call me bitter.
Bitter.
You can call me bitter. I have no desire. If you follow me on social media, I don't post pictures of me training in the gym and selfies working out. I mean, you see pictures of me with my feet up, retired basically, right? Having fun, drinking drinks and whatever.
I get a post about the Shawn Ray Hawaiian Classic about every 20 minutes. That's what I say.
And that's where my passion is. That's what I'm interested in, is the Shawn Ray Hawaiian Classic, November the 4th.
Yes.
However, what gets me out of bed every morning and every week is to follow these guys' journeys through this industry. And I'm very mindful that our industry is made up of a lot of misfits, a lot of broken egos, a lot of people with shattered dreams, a lot of people with drug addictions, a lot of people with no families. This is a sport where we gather people with problems, and they find a way to channel those problems through bodybuilding and fitness. Yeah. And for whatever reason, we become better exteriorly. But inside, there's always this guy in there that doesn't have the confidence, or that has that massive ego, or that has these insecurities and cannot take criticism. It's still an art form to me. I'll still break it down body part for body part. And when I say not ready for prime time, that's my nice way of saying I'm not going to tear you apart. You don't even belong here. Mm. You're in prime time, and you don't belong here. So had I said that about Brandon Ray, Brandon would have called me up and said, what do you mean not ready for prime time? And it would have probably been a private conversation. Yeah. This is not a private sport. It's a sport of public opinion as well as the judges' opinions, and we put it out there. I put my critique out there so you can better yourself. Brandon Ray has my phone number. Kevin Levrone has my number. Dallas McCarver has my number. My career is over. If they want to know why I say the things I say, they can contact me. But instead, they'd rather go to the other extreme and say that I'm an enemy of the state because I'm not on their bandwagon. I'm the bad guy, as if I'm trying to ruin their career. Yeah. Let me just tell you something. Dallas has a long career ahead of him. Justin Compton has a long career ahead of him. Even Brandon Ray has a long career ahead of him because they're much younger than I am. Yeah. Go back and listen to what I said about Justin Compton. Justin Compton, I said, should have won the national championship overall and will be a great professional. The best he's done, I think he's been a pro now for 3, maybe 4 or 5 years. Yep. He's won a couple of shows. I remember when he won one of those Europa shows in the Arnold Classic in Asia. But when it comes to the big show, he's a bottom feeder down there. And I say bottom feeder at 10th because he should be in the top 6 battling these guys. Yeah. Cedric McMillan, I called him out several times, and people came to his defense saying he's a military man, he's a father, he has a real job, he has all of these things. Well, for all of those things that interfere with his pro career, he's a good bodybuilder. But even Lee Haney said, this guy should have been Mr. Olympia already. Phil Heath should not be able to take out someone like Cedric McMillan's genetics, and I agree. So, as fans, Lee Haney and myself are upset. Well, Cedric's got a life. He can't pull the trigger and dedicate himself 100% to this the way that Phil Heath does. And guess what? Phil Heath is going for number 7, Mr. Olympia, and you got Cedric McMillan, who's trying to move up from 8th place of a year ago, if he decides to go in the contest. Yeah. But as an analyst, we got to call it like that. Like, Cedric could be Mr. Olympia. Cedric could be the X Factor. And then you have Cedric's fans going, we're delirious. Cedric should have already been Mr. Olympia. The judge is this, and blah, blah. And they do the same thing with Kai Green. So it's a sport of opinion. I'm not complaining. I'll take the heat. Criticize me and all you want. But when you step on that stage and you see me sitting down there on my phone, I'm talking about you. You know, those bodybuilders need to know I'm talking about them. As a paying fan, as those fans come from around the world to see you, you don't do your job, you're going to see not ready for prime time. You're going to see bloated stomach. You're going to see somebody who is not living up to their potential. I'm going to call it like it is. And right now, Brandon Ray, for all the hard work, for all of the effort, for everything that went into that show, he got 5th place, which means he got nothing. He made as much money as I did staying home, competing on a pro stage in Vancouver, and that's not where he should be. Brandon Curry should be in the money, and Brandon Curry should be the one we're talking about as the victor, not Michael Lockett, because Brandon Curry is a better bodybuilder. Now I'm going to hear from Michael Lockett because I just said that.
Well,
but you know what? That's the truth.
I know. I just want to add, because, you know, obviously I'm in a similar position to you, that, and I've said this before, but I want to emphasize this. When we do our critiques and we discuss these athletes, it's never personal. I'm talking about physiques. In fact, some of the people with the worst physiques I've ever known have been the greatest human beings I've ever known. You know, great people, and conversely, sometimes I've given major props to people I know were actually terrible, terrible people. But I put all that aside, how I feel about them as a person, because it has no bearing. So when I'm critiquing, when you're critiquing, it's not because we don't like you, it's because it's our job, and because we do want to see. I'm a fan, you're a fan. I want to see everybody at their best, because that's when the contests are the most exciting. I want to see a Mr. Olympia where everybody's 100%, and it's a battle. I don't want to see this guy's got a smooth back and hams, and this guy's, you know, missing this body part, and that's boring, because then it's a foregone conclusion. You're going to have the same couple guys up top again. I want to see everybody at their best. I want to see everybody improving.
Sure.
Because I'm a fan, and that's it.
To your point, our mutual friend, Craig Titus, friend of me.
Yes.
He came up to me. This is before social media. He came up to me and he said, hey, I walked backstage at the Ironman. He's all, you're going to love what you see. I said, why? He's all, because you said I had this big, fat, bloated, distended stomach. I've been working on that since last year when you said that. He's all, I hated you. When you said that, I hated you, but you were right. And I watched him throughout the prejudging struggle to control this stomach distension, even though the damage was already done.
Yeah.
But what he remembered was not the million compliments from his fans from being on the covers of the magazines. What he remembered was the guy that he respected and admired's opinion about his stomach, because if I noticed it, he knew that the judges noticed it. And he did his best to control his stomach to the best of his ability. It still was not to my liking, but he was conscious of it. Brandon Ray should take that critique that I just gave about his posing, which is subpar at best, about his condition, which was subpar at best, about his placing, which should never happen to a guy of his caliber, and go to the gym and do something with it and make something of it. Dallas McCarver, I said, he needs to take a break. He needs to step back. He needs to get away from his boy Chad before he dies. And what did Dallas McCarver wind up doing?
He got away from Chad. He's taking a break. He's looking better and better. No offense to Chad. I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but pretty much everything that you had advised, he ended up doing, regardless of the fact that I don't think he likes you very much. So,
yeah, and the thing is, you got to ask yourself, where does that not liking come from? It comes from me keeping it 100. Kevin Levrone didn't do the Vancouver Pro. When he announced he was going to do it, I predicted he wasn't going to do it.
That's right.
Now he's got his eyes. But guess what? If he was in that Vancouver Pro, he might have stood a whole lot better chance to break the top 5
oh, hell yes.
than he did at the Olympia. Because the Olympia, what he was saying was he was going to win and he was going to beat Big Ramy. And so I didn't get on the bandwagon. And that's why I said Flex Wheeler's not making those claims. So at 52 years old, when Flex steps on that classic physique lineup, we don't really have any expectations. It's just great. It'd probably just be great to see him not sitting out there eating popcorn like we'll be doing, and on a stage actually doing something we could only imagine ourselves doing. But, I mean, obviously at 52, I'm not imagining myself doing that. The moral of the story is, if you're a professional bodybuilder and you're competing in this competition or the next few years, and I'm sitting out there, my job isn't to tear you apart. Don't give me a reason to say something negative. But what I will say is the truth. If you come out there with a pregnant fat stomach, I won't mince words. That's exactly what I'm going to say. If you come out there and you give a posing routine that looks like you don't have anybody watching you, I'll make sure that I point that out. If you're posing to background noise, that's exactly what I'm going to call your taste in music, background noise. If you don't care what your color looks like or how your oil is applied, then I'm going to make sure that the rest of the world knows that you don't give a shit, and we shouldn't give a shit either. So the moral of the story is, get on that stage, look professional, act professional, give us something to cheer about, give us something good to write about, and you won't hear any negativity from this bitter, old, jealous, envious, has-been, washed-up bodybuilder whose reality TV show money has run out from living off of his 10-year-old daughter, who has nothing good to say about anybody because I'm living a miserable existence. Well, when I send you my next Unleashed from Bolivia this weekend, sitting next to the pool, drinking a Mai Tai, you can continue writing what you write, and I'll continue writing what I write. And we'll go back to living in this simplistic world that we live in of social media. I'm just saying there's a lot more things you can do with your social media than go out there and bash a reporter, you know, for giving his opinion about a subpar performance. I mean, Donald Trump's doing that now. Bash the reporters who are asking the tough questions rather than answering the tough questions and fixing the problems. We aren't the problem, Ron, you and I and the media. The problem is the bodybuilder on that stage that forgets to look in the mirror and get an honest assessment of where he's at before he gets in that show. You sign that contract, you fly all the way over there to compete in that show, you damn well better be ready to compete or we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. All right, I think that sums it up. Have a great trip to Bolivia for the Ronine Report. It's been Ron Harris with Sugar Shawn Red.